Leadership is about growth. Management can be about change. Here's a story about both.
Welcome to the EMS Wizard Podcast. Along with my co-host, Mr. John C. Wilson. Tonight we've got two very special guests. We've got a recurring guest, Mr. Walter Allen Meads. Thank you for joining us, Walter Allen. And then we also have from Iredell County, North Carolina, the Deputy Director of Support Services, Robby. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Is there another Iredell County? You said of North Carolina. Is there an Iredell County somewhere else, Terry? I never heard
I
of it.
don't know.
Oh,
It's probably a question better off. It's not Eastern North Carolina, and so Walter and I are lost when it comes to this. But Robby might be able to tell us if there is another Iredell County and what a deputy director of support services does in Iredell County. But I feel like it's made up, like I said. But anyways,
I am not aware of another Iredell County, or as everybody likes to pronounce it, Iredell County. That's what we keep hearing.
the
Um,
Native American original.
there probably times it is irredeltating, but
and your second question, Deputy Director of Support Services. So I think the short answer is Deputy Director of everything that everyone else doesn't want to do. But on paper, the Support Services Deputy Director covers training, quality management, compliance, and all recruitment and retention.
that's like half the Officer 2 program.
That's what I was actually thinking.
Basically, the only thing I don't touch is logistics, although I keep getting dragged into that, and some of the just daily operational stuff.
The other half of the Officer 2 program.
Yeah.
Well, what do you feel prepared for what made you sit down and say, hey, I'm gonna support services? I don't even know if that would even hit my radar. I mean, like, hey, I'd really like to try support services, because it does sound very made up. What drew your interest there?
Well, um, some of it I took care of at my previous employer, so I wasn't unfamiliar with most of it. And then when Iredell was hiring for both the director and deputy director at the same time, um, before there was only one deputy director that kind of handled everything. And while they were hiring for both positions, county management made the decision to split the deputy director's position. Um, one take operations and logistics, and the other take training and quality management and that kind of thing. So they had an internal person that they moved from another position into the deputy director of operations, and then offered me the support services one. So that's how I ended up there.
How long you been in that role?
Since November, so almost a year.
Okay, well, that's pretty cool. Is it everything you could have possibly imagined, dreamed of?
Um, that and some more.
Um, so why don't let's start from the beginning. Give us a little background just so we can sort of set the stage for people that may be listening, saying, what was your trail to get you to where you are now? Like where'd you go to school? What made you want to be an EMS? What made you click the apply button for any promotional process? And maybe we'll ask some questions about how those processes were like.
Cool. Um, so I think I got my start in emergency services work kind of in the same way that a lot of people did if you've got more than 15, 20 years in, which was through a volunteer agency. So um, I actually graduated high school. A lot of people don't know this, but I went to art school. That was kind of where my happiness was.
Not a surprise to some of us.
um, I studied fine art and visual art, and within a year of graduating high school and starting college, some friends of mine that I went to high school with uh, drugged me into volunteering at our rescue squad here. Um, and it was all downhill from there. Got in, decided I liked it. Went to EMT school, The rescue squad paid for it, went through that, decided I really liked it. So actually got a job back then. Burke County is where I started. You could not get a job at Burke EMS unless somebody died or retired, and they were just fully staffed all the time. So the common path in at that point was to get hired first in EMS dispatch for the county. That way, if a spot opened in EMS, you could just kind of lateral transfer over there, and it wasn't an outside hire. So I started working third shift at the comm center, and then actually transferred out of art school into a paramedic degree program. And then I went to school during the day and went to class at night. So, or I went to worked at night. Back then, the paramedic degree program, none of it was online. So it was Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 every day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And went to CVCC in Hickory. Martha was over the program then. Tim Tuning was there. Did that, and about, I'd say 6 months before I graduated, I had already taken my intermediate. A position opened full time on the truck, so I switched from that point from dispatch over to the truck, and started full time then. Stayed volunteer on the rescue squad for years. Ended my time at the rescue squad with about 12 years there as the assistant chief. During that time, I went and got my bachelor's from Western in emergency and disaster management. And I kind of made a choice at that point that instead of kind of going down the emergency care path, that I would go into the management path. I decided I really didn't want to go to PA school or anything like that, so there wasn't any major point in going down the other side. But and then kind of picked up some additional certifications, critical care, started taking some leadership classes here and there. And ultimately took me a long time to start moving up at Burke. And the reason for that is what a lot of people deal with across the state at multiple agencies. It's not an us problem, it's an everywhere problem, where you really don't get the option to move up unless you're the favorite. And I was not the favorite. So it took me a long time to get the opportunity to take that first step. So I had gotten my instructor certification and started teaching some at the community college here. And then that first step at Burke then was what they call sergeant, which is a shift trainer. Finally got that opportunity. Done a lot more teaching at the college. I enjoyed the sergeant role. I enjoyed helping teach within the service.
Is that like their version of the FTO or something?
No, the sergeant supervises the FTOs. All the on-shift training, like they'll pull trucks off the road to do on-shift training and stuff, and the sergeants handle all that kind of stuff.
I got you.
And then did that role for a little while. Took on some other responsibility within the agency, like special events coordinator and just other kind of miscellaneous things. Was on the special operations team. Got a lot of experience doing that stuff. Continued to take some management classes here and there. And then decided that I wanted to go ahead and knock my master's out. So took a long time trying to figure out where and what. And eventually landed on a master's of public safety leadership and administration from ASU. Knocked that out in 2 years. Finished it in 2022. And literally the month after I finished it, made a jump all the way from sergeant to what's major at Burke, which is really deputy director. Past lieutenant and captain, never made a stop at those.
How'd you feel about that?
To be completely honest, it was kind of like a sink or swim situation.
No
And
doubt.
it took me some time to like kind of navigate that and figure out what I was doing. First several months, it was it's the equivalent literally of somebody driving you out to the middle of the ocean in a boat, kicking you out and driving off, and you have no life vest and sharks are circling and you're trying to like not
Oh,
get,
you're at the Outer Banks. Great.
yeah,
Don't. Yeah, I knew
trying
you were
to
going to do it.
trying to not get eat or drown. But I eventually figured it out and started making some headway. And I was in that position with Burke for 2 years. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of challenges, some specific to that agency that uh, were really neither here nor there. But um, got the opportunity to jump to Iredell and have thoroughly enjoyed that. I have uh, been happier than I've been in my whole career there. So.
So,
And
so
why did you jump up from, I guess, that sergeant role to that major role? What made you decide to jump out to do that?
Um, there were, I think, opportunities within the service. So I saw from my perspective, um, a lot of things that, if changed or done differently, could positively impact the service. And you can't complain about things if you're not willing to step up and try to fix the problem. So um, I thought, well, here's the opportunity. Let's put myself in a position to try to make some change and see if we can improve some things.
I feel like it was, in the words of the Warrior Poets, Depeche Mode, you had to reach out and touch faith. It's
Mm.
like how I worked in the Depeche Mode quote just for you. To be in that situation. And one of the interesting things to me is, I mean, in talking with you, I never knew that there was that huge jump because we talk sometimes, amongst each other that when you go up and promote those levels, hey, if I'm a sergeant, if I'm a lieutenant, the titles are made up, but those different supervisory levels, hey, you make those mistakes, but I don't know. You bring a certain, not to call you old man because I think you're younger than I am, but certain maturity, and I don't see that with you. And so, I mean, I want to peer behind the curtain. What's the secret sauce that that you think made you successful, other than you're just an amazing swimmer and sharks don't like sharks don't like you?
Um, that's a good question, and I think the answer to that is uh, kind of twofold. One, I spent a long time. Well, let me back up. I'm a extremely observant person. Um, y'all know me. You've been around me a little while. I'm very quiet most of the time, um, to the point that uh, one of our uh, Western branch guys from OEMS uh, told my wife one time that it was 2 years after he knew me before he ever knew that I could actually talk. Um, and it's because I've always found a lot of value in um, staying quiet, listening to what's going on around me.
Well, depending
Uh,
on which Western OEMS person it is, they probably don't let you get a word in edgewise.
that is true. Um, so and then back to the answer to the question. So I spent a long time under some really good leadership that I was able to pull from and observe, uh, kind of mimic behaviors, um, just pull some really good stuff from. And then I also spent a long time under some really poor leadership that I learned what not to do from. Um, and I think that's what makes any of us successful is learning that balance. You watch folks do things and you watch how it impacts the service and others around them. And you either think, that's a good behavior. I'm going to continue that, or I saw the devastation that caused and I'm not doing that. So,
Well, I think that culture stands out. The thing that I heard the most about what you were saying was kind of we were doing a class a couple of weeks ago, and in that class we sort of talk about the pros and cons of academia, along the way of where at what point in time is the stopping point that you say this is where it would come in. What I hear in your story is it isn't that you grew up with this, innate love for wanting to be in emergency services, but once you've seen that you had a drawing to that, you began preparing yourself.
Hmm.
You began preparing yourself with these classes and say, hey, let me get in academia on that, because you use the word training in several classes and we tend to just throw those off there. So I think sometimes people don't think about how important it is to prepare yourself a lot of times. And even in your story, this might have been the case, because I think I hear a little bit of I was motivated by negativity. I think I hear a little bit in that. It's like I want to see a change happen. So I've had in my mind poor leadership, so I want to do something about that. And I've
Hmm.
seen the outcome, or I've seen the seeds planted and I've seen what flowers have grown from that negativity, and I want to have a difference in that. So I think, you know, people sometimes don't put value inside of their academia till they end up in a position and realize, oh crap, I don't know what I'm doing. Let me take something to
Hmm.
help me in the position I'm in. And the story I hear from you is, let me prepare for the position I want. And maybe that's a take home message for everybody, is like,
Correct.
what do you do to prepare yourself for where you want to be versus having to react that now I'm in this position. What do I do now? I think
Hmm.
that probably describes more folks. So that's an oddity to me. Do you see it the same way?
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't know if I cut you off, Terry. I think I saw you would go to talking.
You probably did, but it's fine. I've already forgot.
Oh, good. You forgot. It's even better.
Yes.
And the other thing that I was going to touch on is the impact of culture. That's to hear the story on culture. And I think the thing you were describing it is, I don't want to say good old boy network, but playing favorites certainly sometimes. And I've always tried to defend the other side of it, is um, maybe from the perspective, if I was playing favorites in something, maybe it's that I've established trust and I know who I trust, and I kind of keep that circle, and I don't think about how that might affect everybody else. I think about how maybe I'm trying to get XYZ job done and I want folks in certain positions because of my trust level. I believe EMS is a low trust environment. It's built to be high trust, but it's usually not high trust at all. It's usually a low trust environment. And if I've got a lot of people, if I'm limited in the amount of if I can limit the amount of exposure I have with other folks, then I'm going to want to put my friends or my people in those positions, sort of as a protection. And maybe just a little bit because I'm not prepared. Maybe it's like
Right.
I'll hide behind the walls of people that maybe are a little prepared, or scapegoats, those type of things, so that you don't have to look at me, because you're busy
Yep.
looking at these other folks.
And I think you make a good point, and I think it's important for people to understand that there's a huge difference between playing favorites and recognizing the superstars within your system and putting effort and time into those people. I think to just general field staff, um, it can look the same,
Right.
kind of
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of viewing it from their point, because they don't see everything that we see from a management level or from a leadership level. So even if you are recognizing the superstars within your system and you're trying to build them up and put effort and time in them, just from the general field staff perspective, you're playing favorites, even though that's not quite what it is. I mean, it can be. Um, that's why I think it's kind of a fine line, and you have to walk that line carefully. Um,
So
but
how do you walk that line? Let me just interrupt you and chase that rabbit for a second, because what you're describing to me, in my organization, we had a conversation the other day, and somebody had said, a small table, a couple of us at the table, and we were tossing some names out, and somebody said, I feel like we're always bringing up the same names as we're talking about somebody getting a project. And then there was a discussion of, yeah, we do talk about the same names on the good side of things and on the negative side of things. And so how do you how do you message that? How do you combat is really the wrong word, but I mean, how do you deal with that?
right, so um, I think the only way you can deal with that is through publicly recognizing the superstars within your system and the things that they do, so that the other staff do hear the message and they do kind of understand, hey, he's not playing favorites. He's really looking to see what we're doing and what we're succeeding at and who's putting effort into the job and going the extra mile and picking up extra responsibility. So I think one of the only ways you can do that is to just make sure that everybody understands your reasons and that you're uh, publicly recognizing and rewarding the behavior you're looking for.
If Robby Milton's a quiet guy, and he's historically always been a quiet guy, almost maybe even overlooked to say, because you're so quiet. What does Robby Milton, who actually recognizes that about himself, what do you do to ensure that the Robby Miltons that work for you aren't overlooked?
I try my best to spend as much time out of the office and with the staff as I can. In a agency the size of ours, and just the sheer amount of work we get done, I don't get a tremendous amount of time, not near as much as I would like to do that. But I do spend some time out with the staff, kind of getting to know personalities. And you can learn a lot by spending a few minutes around somebody on a truck running calls. And, we have several in our agency who are just by nature very quiet, kind of stand in the background. But they do excellent work. We never have any patient care issues out of them. They're excellent employees. So I try really hard when I see things like that to make a round to the bases, show up at a base where one of those individuals are and walk in and just say, hey, I noticed you did whatever with this call. Super good job. And I try to really make sure that anybody else that's around the station is present and hears and sees that message also. We also kind of have some like messaging boards where we put stuff up, and we make sure that we throw those individuals up on the screen as much as we can, and just really put effort into not letting anybody get left out, I guess.
Rob, you say that larger organization. What's your employee size, call volumes, square mile? How many stations do you have? What's some of that basic information about Iredell County?
We have 8 stations. We run 13 trucks during the day. It drops to 11 at night, and that's just 911 trucks. We have up to 4 what we call SSD or Special Service Division trucks, which are your convalescent trucks, that run and supplement that. We have about 240 employees. Iredell County is absolutely massive end to end. It runs long ways north to south. And it's such a size that we really have to have, and we do have 2 shift supervisors, one in the north and one in the south, because you just can't get from one end to the other in any time enough to be of any help to anybody. So,
What's the major city?
Statesville is right in the middle, kind of the home of Iredell, but from Statesville, which I-40 and 77 cross right in the middle of Statesville. So we have 2 major highways. From that point north in the county, it gets pretty rural. It's a lot of farmland. It's absolutely beautiful country up there. If I were going to live in Iredell, that's where I'd live. It's gorgeous. But from 40 south, Statesville south, you go through Troutman, Perth, and then down into Mooresville and Lake Norman, which are absolutely massive. I think the county's projection is that those areas, the Mooresville and Lake Norman areas, will double in size within the next couple of years. So we're really putting a lot of effort into kind of examining that south end, truck placement, how many more trucks we're going to need to deal with the population that's moving into that area. And some of it is just trying to travel around in that area. There are so many people that traffic is just absolutely insane during the day. And it makes it really hard for trucks to get from one district to the other. So we're having to try to be careful about where we place trucks to make sure that we can cover areas without getting trucks stuck in traffic that can't get anywhere. I think, well, we already have county approval to add 2 more full-time trucks. We're working on the staffing and the physical trucks for those right now. They're on order. And working with some local fire departments to put together some room in a couple fire departments for those new trucks to be. We run about, I think last year was about 40,000 calls total with 13 trucks.
Do you have, do you kind of create your own paramedics, or are you dependent on community college being able to put out a number? And if so, are they meeting that number?
So we are actually sitting in a good spot with with that because our county management saw the value in growing your own, I guess is what it's being called in the industry these days. So and they've went all in, fully invested into that concept. So between 2 different community colleges right now, Iredell has 34 paramedic apprentices. These are EMTs that we hired in full time with benefits and pay for them to go to school. Once they graduate, they go full time on the truck into field training as a paramedic. We have 13 at Rowan, and the rest of them are at Mitchell Community College. They're in our county. And we had to split those up because just instructor availability and 34 apprentices in Mitchell's program would have way overloaded them, so we had to send 13 of those somewhere else. But the county has, like I said, fully invested in that concept, and we were able to work the schedules with those folks out so that they're in class. They're 40-hour a week employees. They're in class 28 hours a week, which leaves them owing us 1 12-hour shift on a truck. So they're getting their school time and experience on the truck at the same time. And it helps us fill spots on trucks. If we have fully staffed trucks, then we use those EMTs to put up extra convalescent BLS trucks to handle some of the discharges and things like that and pull that extra volume off of the rest of the service. So it works out pretty good.
You guys work with your like in regards to doing your continuing education, where have you found works best for an agency so large? I didn't realize you had that many employees, that many trucks and stuff. So that's one of those medium size in comparison to the Wakes and the Mecklenburgs of the world. And when I think of Mooresville and Lake Norman, I think of a lot of money. A lot of money homes down there. I got a lot of NASCAR drivers like own estates down there and stuff. So, but when it comes to training your folks, do you find that something you do in-house, online through distance learning, or does your community college provide that as well? I mean, what's it look like there in that area for that?
So we were again lucky. The county has been really good to us since me and the new director got there in November. We've been able to justify the need for certain things and show it's helping. So they've let us do several things. And one of the things they let us do was actually split our training officer into 2 training officers. And the intention of that, number one, was because we knew that we were going to invest so much time and effort into the apprentice paramedics that we were going to have pretty much a full-time person just to manage those folks. And with 1 training officer, it wouldn't have been, there wouldn't have been enough time in the day to handle dealing with the apprentices, keeping up with the colleges, external students writing, that kind of stuff, and all of our own in-house continuing education and anything else that needs to go on training wise. So we split that role. Our training officer that's been there, he stepped up and wanted to take over the apprentice side. So he spends a lot of his time doing the apprentice schedules, but also visiting colleges. He's with our apprentices pretty much his whole day, every day. And then the other one that we split He takes everything internal as far as continuing education, kind of supervising our FTOs and ATOs. Our service utilizes ATOs or assistant training officers. There's one per shift, kind of the same thing Burke had as a sergeant. It's just called ATOs with us at Iredell, but taking care of those folks. He manages the FTEP program for new hires. And he actually gets out, rides on the trucks to evaluate how the FTOs are doing, how the ATOs are doing, make sure that the folks that we have teaching people are actually teaching what they're supposed to be doing, and following the rules themselves. And then he handles, of course, we do 4 continuing education sessions a month, 2 in the morning and 2 at night. And he handles all 4 of those in conjunction with our community college there, Mitchell. It works out well.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty good partnership from that. What do you see, like from the lens of where you've been before through your journey, preparing yourself to where you are, going through some, I guess, controversy in your mind to get through some struggles, seeing the other side of the rainbow now where you find, some semblance of a pot of gold. Where do you see EMS in the future? Like what do you think the future of EMS is?
That's a really good question, but hard question to answer. I think that one of the big, I don't want to say holdups, but holdup for the industry as a whole, specifically in North Carolina, is both collaboration and what's the word I'm looking for? Some standardization across the field, I guess. The fire service, law enforcement, other emergency services groups are kind of very standard across the board in how they operate, their positions. EMS, not so much. So I think there's going to have to be a lot more collaboration between departments. EMS in North Carolina is going to have to come together as a whole to create some standardization, create a place for agencies, new leadership to reach out, get questions answered, to just kind of get everybody on the same page. I feel like if we're all doing different things, it's never going to move the industry as a whole forward. And I know that's hard because everywhere operates differently, and everybody has different goals and different objectives. And but at some point, we're all going to have to realize that we're trying to do the same thing, and we're going to have to get together and do it.
So if you had a second, I mean, because you kind of do to talk to there's 453 agencies in the state of North Carolina, and we get some listening in some other states and some other places, other nations as well. And so speaking to our North Carolina audience, and I think that ripples across the nation with some other things, what do we need to do to get back on track? What do we need to get the locomotive on the rails to get things moving forward, and frankly steal from our brothers and sisters in law enforcement and in the fire service?
I think what I would say is no matter what the size of your agency is, no matter where you're located, put forth the effort to make friends with your neighboring counties, your neighboring regions, agencies across the state. Get involved when there are committees, meetings, associations that are out there, and there are several in North Carolina. Reach out to those, get involved, show up to the meetings, show up to the expos and different things. We're not gonna learn from each other unless we put ourselves in a position to do so. Also, we're going to have to get ourselves in a situation where we can prove to the legislative bodies in North Carolina the things that we need and the things that we want. And until we all get a unified voice, that's not going to happen.
Well, you talk unified voice, and I know we've probably got time for one or two more questions. And so my question would be unified voice. Sometimes you need a best friend to help you with that unified voice. So if I were to ask you, Robby, who's your best friend? Who's your best friend?
I don't think I have just one. I have several. I've been really fortunate in the fact that I've gotten to meet a lot of really good people from end to end, from literally one end of the state to the other, and in all different sizes and types of agencies that function in different ways. I've always kind of been of the opinion that I don't have all the answers to everything, and I know I don't have all the answers to everything. So I'm going to surround myself with the individuals that do and the individuals that have different experiences than myself. So I can't say that I have just one best friend. I I've developed a lot of really close, really good connections all across the state. So
Me too. Oh, show.
With your 1-year coin.
Why don't I get a 1-year coin? I mean, it was a pin. I mean, so yeah, I agree. I should actually get these coins. Would you like to make the first donation, Walter?
Think you can get pennies.
Right. Yeah.
Well, if you had, Robby, if you had one little piece of advice you'd have to say to someone that's probably sitting there struggling to make a decision, because I tell you, one of the things that I end up seeing more and more nowadays is folks that they don't know whether they want to be in management or not. They just don't know. Like, they come to the classes that we do, and they do their intro, and it's like, why do you want to be an EMS officer? Why do you want to be in management? And they're like, well, I don't know that I do. I don't know that I do. What would be the advice you'd give someone that's sitting there firmly on the fence? And I wouldn't say they're on the fence leaning one way or the other, but if you had to tilt them one way or the other, what would you say? And what would be the thing that they could do to help, light the way a little bit for them?
well, I think first it's important to make a bold statement, which is that management and leadership's not for everybody. It takes a certain personality, a certain type of person, and you're not necessarily going to know that until you get in a position to not get in a position, but gain some experience in those areas. So the advice I would give to folks is find a good mentor in your service or in a close service that can, as much as they can, include you in things that happen in conversations, in planning for your agency, in different meetings, just to get your feet wet and kind of see if those are the things you want to do. I think having a really strong, really good mentor is very important. It's somebody for you to bounce ideas off of, ask questions, get answers to things like exactly what you just asked. Is this good for me? Do I have the personality for this? Is this something that I want to do? And there's a lot of teachers in EMS. There's not a lot of good mentors. So sometimes those are hard to find, and I realize that. But they're out there. Just put your effort into finding one.
Perhaps one day there'll be a group of mentors.
That would be nice.